Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching this recording today. My name is Zoe Husband. I'm here with Citizens Utility Board as Carbon-Free Buildings Coordinator to talk to you a bit about Building Decarbonization 101. So let's get started. So first, I would like to tell you a bit about Citizens Utility Board, or CUB for short. So we are a nonpartisan nonprofit fighting for clean and affordable energy. So we represent utility ratepayers such as yourselves and me in front of the Illinois Commerce Commission. They approve any rate hike increases from investor-owned utilities. We also represent you in front of the Illinois General Assembly and in the courts. We also have a hotline to help individuals with any utility issues. We will help you file any complaints or resolve issues if you're having trouble resolving them. So, this hotline is available Monday through Thursday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And we also have a website, citizensutilityboard.org, with a whole range of resources related to solar panels, energy efficiency, building decarbonization, financial assistance, the list goes on. So I definitely recommend checking out our website. We also conduct consumer education. We do about 500 outreach events per year, just like this one, both virtually and in person, all throughout the state of Illinois. And on our website, you can check out citizensutilityboard.org/calendar to see if you have an event coming up that might be near you. So, all that to say, we advocate for affordable and sustainable energy policies in Illinois. So let's talk a bit about what building decarbonization is. So in most contexts, when we talk about building decarbonization, this means switching from natural gas or propane for cooking, heating, and hot water in your home to using electricity to do the same things. So this requires switching from fossil fuels to renewables when generating electricity to make it a clean source of energy. Illinois ranks highly for total annual natural gas delivery in buildings. So I know it's a little bit blurry here, but you can see after New York and California, Illinois is the third highest state for total annual natural gas delivery. The blue represents commercial usage, and the white represents residential usage. So we can see that the slight majority is residential usage. And the reason for this natural gas delivery usage being so high is due to the existing infrastructure in Illinois for gas usage. So we can also see that here when we look at what the US is cooking on. This was a survey seeing what the most common type of stove is in the US by household as of 2020. And we can see that the majority of the states in this image have that dark blue color, which shows that they have majority electric stove usage, 71 to 90%. And then we can see a couple states here, Illinois being one of them, as yellow, which means that they have a majority gas stove usage. And as we already discussed, this just has to do with the existing infrastructure that has been here for gas in Illinois, but we propose electrifying. And let's talk a bit about why. So there are three main reasons to cite when we talk about why we should electrify in Illinois. So number one being affordability. The volatility of gas prices places a burden on households in terms of their energy usage. This threatens people's ability to maintain safe and comfortable homes, which we should all have access to all year long. And for our climate, because gas plants not only burn a fossil fuel, but they are also a source of methane that is leaking into the atmosphere, which is not what we want. And lastly, for our health, burning gas in our buildings contributes to indoor and outdoor air pollution in our communities, which you might not have known before, but we'll talk a bit more about that. We can also see here in this graph that gas prices are historically more volatile than electricity prices. So these are historical gas and electricity retail residential prices adjusted for inflation. So you can see here this lighter blue color represents the retail gas price up top, and we can see that it fluctuates much more widely. And then on the bottom, we can see the retail electric price in dark blue, and we can see that it's relatively stable in comparison to the gas price fluctuations. Now, part of this has to do with geopolitical events and things like that, which affect the price of a gas much more than they affect electricity, which is more highly regulated. So, Illinois gas utilities raised rates by $583 million in 2023. In 2025, Nicor Gas has proposed a $308.6 million rate hike. This is actually would be the largest gas rate hike request if it were to go through in the state of Illinois in history. And in 2017 through 2024, NICOR had raised delivery rates by 114%, which equates to about $747 million. And we believe that it's unnecessary for consumers to take on these costs. Ameren, which is our gas utility more in central and southern Illinois, has also proposed a $134 million rate hike. Just another way to demonstrate affordability, we conducted a study with Groundworks data with a report that found that People's Gas System Modernization Project, also known as SMP, if it were to go through as promised originally, it would leave Chicagoans inundated by recurring rounds of record-breaking rate hikes. Completion of this project would cause rates to raise about 7% every year. So to give you some perspective, delivery charges would go from $1,206 to $2,424 by 2040. So this just demonstrates the effect that poor policy can have on residential consumers in terms of what they're paying for their bills. But luckily, the SMP project was decided by the Illinois Commerce Commission that they would instead focus on only replacing gas pipes that were in need of repair rather than repairing the entire system unnecessarily. Energy Futures Group did an analysis on behalf of the Natural Resource Defense Council, and they found that Chicago homeowners who switch from natural gas sources to fully electrify their homes would enjoy savings ranging from $11,000 to $24,000 over a 20-year time period. Now, the reason these numbers vary so much has to do with a multitude of factors, such as the size of your home, the age of your current appliances, if before you transition to electric, the efficiency of the electric appliances, and also if your home is already properly weatherized and insulated, that would ensure that your new appliances don't have to work harder than necessary. So those are some of the factors that influence savings. So, in terms of our climate, natural gas is actually made up of predominantly methane. And methane is a potent greenhouse gas that has 84 times the global warming potential of carbon dioxide over a 20-year time frame. Emissions from fossil fuels burned in buildings accounts for 22% of Illinois' greenhouse gas emissions. It counts for 70% of those emissions in Chicago. So, all of that to say, if we start to transition into electrifying our homes, that will present an opportunity to reduce a significant amount of emissions in the state of Illinois, 22%. So, another important reason we should electrify is for our health. Gas burning appliances emit dangerous air pollution. Some of those pollutants include carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides, fine particulate matter, formaldehyde, and benzene, just things that you don't want to be breathing in your home. And the EPA states that indoor pollutant levels may be 2 to 100 times higher indoors than outdoors. And most of us spend the majority of our time indoors, so this does affect our day-to-day lives. A US study found that gas stoves emit benzene levels above secondhand smoke when you leave a single gas hub on for 45 minutes. And they found that even low doses of airborne benzene raise the risk of a variety of cancers, including lymphomas and leukemia. We also found a study which stated that 21% of childhood asthma cases in Illinois are attributable to gas stove use, the highest of any state in the nation, and the national average is about 13% for reference. My understanding of why it might be so high is because, again, we are one of the only states with the majority of gas stove usage remaining due to that like old infrastructure. We've also saw that children living in a home with gas cooking have a 42% increased risk of asthma, according to another peer-reviewed study. Now, this is not to scare anyone, but it is just to make you aware as a consumer of the choices that you have in the future for appliances, if that's something that you are interested in. Given all the concerns about health, climate, and affordability, it's now really the time to pour more ratepayer money into natural gas. We believe that we have the technology to move beyond gas, and here are some ways that we can do so. So you can see here, these four appliances are the most commonly used for space heating, cooking, etc. in your home. So with a gas furnace, you can swap that out for an air source heat pump. The gas stove, you can transition to an induction stovetop. With a gas water heater, you can switch to a heat pump water heater. And with a gas clothes dryer, you can upgrade to a heat pump clothes dryer. I also wanted to take this moment here briefly for you watching the recording. If you would like to go ahead and scan the QR code, this takes you to a guide that we have on Cub's website regarding these electric appliances that I just discussed, telling you about how they work, the incentives available, and things like that. So I'll just pause momentarily for that. Okay, so let's keep moving. So I told you that you can upgrade your gas furnace to an air source heat pump. So let's talk a bit about the technology of heat pumps, just to give you an understanding. So if you had not heard of them before, heat pumps use electricity to move heat from one place to another rather than creating it, which is what your gas furnace does when it burns fossil fuels. You can think of it as a refrigerator in reverse. Air conditioners also use this technology. So it's not that this technology is new, it's just the way that it's being utilized is different than what we're used to. Inverter heat pump technology actually allows heat pumps to run in below 0-degree temperatures. So I know that's an important consideration for those of us who live in this cold, sometimes unpredictable Illinois climate. So heat pump technology has come a long way. And we can see here on the right-hand side this graphic that demonstrates how air source heat pumps work. So we can see on the left-hand side how they function in warm months, and then they are able to operate essentially in reverse for the cold months. We've also seen that air source heat pumps can reduce your electricity use by 50% compared to furnaces and baseboard heaters that you may already have in your home. So you can see here on the left-hand side what the air source heat pump may look like on the inside of your home, and then the image on the right-hand side here shows what it may look like outside of your home. So ground source heat pumps are actually even more efficient than air source heat pumps because they transfer heat between your home and the ground. So it is important to note that they are more expensive upfront than air source heat pumps, but because they are more efficient, they have the largest opportunity for saving money long term compared to other cooling and heating methods for your home. So they can reduce energy use for heating and cooling by 30 to 60%. So they're able to do this by taking advantage of the relatively stable temperature several feet underground. So the system uses underground water pipes to absorb the Earth's heat. It's about 55 degrees consistently underground and transfer that warmth into a home. And similar to air source heat pumps, in the summer, that process is reversed. And the reason geothermal heat pumps are more expensive is because they do require drilling to insert them in the ground. But again, they present an opportunity for significant savings in the long term. So here are some tips to avoid unnecessary electrical panel upgrades when decarbonizing your home. The reality is sometimes you may not be able to avoid electrical panel upgrades if you are wishing to electrify multiple appliances, but you may be able to avoid a bit such a strain by doing some of these hacks, if you will. So utilizing power efficient devices is a great idea. So for example, purchasing a heat pump water heater that uses a 120 volt outlet instead of a 240 volt outlet to save you a bit of space for your overall electricity usage. And then you can also determine your watt diet. This is the budget for the amount of power the electric equipment uses in your home. You can also consider purchasing circuit pausers, circuit splitters, or smart panels. So let's say you have an electric vehicle that you want to charge, but you also have a heat pump closed jar and you don't need to run both at the same time. You can use a circuit splitter to split the usage between those two things and alternate to not overwhelm your electricity's capabilities. So I also want to tell you a bit about how an induction stovetop works. So you may have heard of electric resistance stovetops before. I have used those personally, but this is the more efficient, um, advanced version of an electric resistance stovetop. This is an induction stovetop. So how it works is that electricity flows through copper coils underneath the induction stove's glass or ceramic surface. A magnetic field creates a fast-moving electric current in the metal of the pan itself. So instead of just heating the surface, which then heats the pan, it's actually heating the pan directly, which makes it the induction aspect. So then the electric currents dissipate heat because of a concept called resistance, which heats the cookware and cooks the food. So, not all pans are suitable with induction cooktops, but a good way to test if your pan is suitable is if you have a magnet on your fridge, see if it sticks to your pan. If it sticks to your pan, that means your pan is able to work with induction cooktops. There are also some great videos out there from chefs who demo how to use induction cooktops, so I definitely recommend checking those out online if that interests you. So, additionally, induction cooktops are easier to clean. That's a big plus that a lot of people really enjoy. They're also 5 to 10% more efficient than those conventional electric resistant stovetops that we just talked about before because they directly heat the metal of the pan instead of just the surface first. And they're about 3 times more efficient than gas cooktops. It can also boil water 20 to 40% faster than gas stoves, which I think is really great if you are someone who gets a bit impatient when boiling your water for pasta or meals like that. So here's an image of a home that we could maybe see in the future here in Illinois. This home completely zeroes out home carbon emissions. It's able to do so through a variety of factors. So we see electric appliances such as heat pump water heaters, heat pump dryers, induction stove, etc. And then we also see that there are solar panels on the roof of this home. Solar works very nicely with electric appliances because you are essentially generating your own electricity through the solar panels, which helps to power your electric appliances. This also pairs very nicely when it comes to charging an electric vehicle. Another important thing that I want to note here is that this home is properly insulated, which makes it as efficient as possible. So we always say that is the first step to electrification. We'll talk about that a bit more right here. We also love to say that the cheapest and cleanest energy is the energy you don't use. Every dollar spent on efficiency saves you $3 in energy costs. And I love this statistic because it shows that even just being aware of your energy habits and trying to be more energy efficient is likely to save you some money. So, what can you do in your home right now? Well, you can weatherize. So, that means making sure that your home is keeping the cool air in the summer or keeping the warm air in the winter here in Illinois. And you can utilize a home energy audit to see what kind of weatherization methods you still need to implement into your home. The Department of Energy has some helpful resources regarding contractors who can conduct home energy audits. You can see here on the right-hand side, this is an example of a home energy audit procedure, a blower door test to see proper installation of your home, etc. There are also some great programs through your utilities currently here in Illinois. They're called demand response programs. So, since we're in ComEd territory here, ComEd offers hourly pricing and peak time savings programs. So, the way that hourly pricing works is that essentially, instead of paying that predetermined average rate for electricity per kilowatt hour, so 6.5 cents right now, for example, you'd be actually paying the real-time market rate of electricity, which fluctuates based on demand hour by hour. So if you're able to plan ahead and make your lifestyle compatible with this, you can take advantage of when electricity prices are extremely low in the middle of the night, and you can use that time to charge things like your electric vehicle and whatnot. And you can switch your usage a bit to avoid times where electricity is highest in demand, meaning that the price spikes. So when everybody gets home from work or things like that, you can wait to wash the dishwasher till later at night. Similarly, Peak Time Savings Program allows you to earn a credit for every kilowatt hour you save during the specific time period. So this program usually happens in those warmer summer months. So ComEd will send you a notification at least an hour in advance saying, hey, today, August 28th, between 3 and 7 p.m., based on your previous electricity usage, you'll earn a credit for every kilowatt hour you save during that period. And it's less risky because if you don't save any kilowatt hours, you are not penalized. So hourly pricing is a great option for people with EVs or people who have many electric appliances who are willing to monitor their usage, whereas peak time savings is a bit of an easier introduction into demand response programs. But both are great, and a lot of consumers enjoy utilizing these programs. You can also do a home energy assessment, which you actually get for free as a ComEd and Nightcore customer each year. So this is a bit less in depth than a home energy audit, but you're not paying for it. So you may receive free LED light bulbs, things like that, and it can just help you get a general sense of what your energy efficiency is in your home. So there's also a great piece of legislation called the Inflation Reduction Act that has some current incentives for homeowners to weatherize, be energy efficient, and electrify. So we can see here these tax credit categories on the bottom half of the screen are in green because they're currently available, whereas the top two rebate images are in yellow because they are not yet available. We hope to see these rebates become available later this year, but obviously that is subject to change given the current federal administration. But we anticipate that these tax credits should stay until the end of this year. But obviously, we just have to see what happens. But as of right now, the Energy Efficiency Home Improvement Credit is currently available. This allows you to use up to $1,200 a year for energy efficiency upgrades. And then there's a separate up to $2,000 or 30% of total project costs for a space or water heater. So you can do a heat pump water heater if you'd like to. And this does not count towards that $1,200 annual cap. So there's also the residential clean energy credit, where you can receive 30% of the total cost back on your taxes of a rooftop solar installation, a geothermal heat pump system installation, which we talked about before, or battery storage. And lastly, there are the clean vehicle tax credits. There is a credit for purchasing a new clean vehicle, where you can receive up to $7,500. That one is income qualified. And then there is a used electric vehicle tax credit up to $4,000, again, income qualified. And lastly, a charging clean vehicle credit for up to $1,000 per charging port. So you can scan this QR code here on the left-hand side to learn all of the details for eligibility and how to file this on your taxes if you have questions. I definitely recommend scanning that QR code. Um, and then if these two do become available later this year, this is what they may look like. So there is here the home electrification and appliance rebate. So with this one, you can utilize up to $14,000 for a variety of electrification measures, such as purchasing an electric stovetop, so like the induction one that we were talking about, a heat pump water heater, upgrading electrical panels if you need to, purchasing an air source heat pump, and that rebate is capped at 80% area median income or below. And I'll show you what qualifies at 80% AMI just to give you an idea. But we do anticipate this one opening up after the initial income eligibility time slot, depending on demand and interest. So keep an eye out for that on the Illinois EPA website. There's also the home efficiency rebate, known as HER. So for this one, you can utilize up to $8,000 for qualifying retrofits on your home to be more energy efficient, properly weatherized, etc. This is based on energy savings that would be calculated from installing a certain thing and your income. So you can use up to $8,000 if you fall at 80% area median income or AMI or less. And then if you fall above 80% AMI, you can use up to $4,000. Also, want to note here that this rebate cannot be paired with here, which is the rebate on the left for the same upgrade, but the two programs can be combined for different upgrades. So you could use the HERE rebate for a heat pump, and you could use the HER rebate for a weatherization project, but you cannot combine the two for just one of those. So like I mentioned, 80% AMI is the income eligibility criteria for some of these incentives. So you can see here, a household of one, 80% area median income or below, falls at about $62,800, just for reference. And this is the most recent estimate we have on AMI limits. So ComEd also offers some great electrification rebates and discounts, and there is a link here to find some additional information on these savings. But just to give you an idea, you can utilize $200 for a heat pump clothes dryer, $40 for an electric clothes dryer, $100 for an induction cooktop, up to 1,400 for an air source heat pump, up to 1,000 for a mini split air source heat pump. So that would be a ductless air source heat pump. So maybe on just one level of your home, and up to $6,000 for a geothermal heat pump total system. And just wanted to note here that higher rebate amounts are available to income eligible households, again, with that 80% AMI threshold. So here's an example of how a consumer at 80% AMI can stack these incentives and make the most of their savings. So this person decided to purchase a heat pump clothes dryer. So we calculated the starting price plus $150 installation costs. So that added up to about $1,250. This person qualified for the electrification rebate here. So they're able to get the full categories amount worth, which was $840 for this appliance. So they subtracted that from the initial cost, and then they were also able to utilize the ComEd rebate to subtract another $200, which leaves the final cost to be $210, which is a lot less than what we started with. So definitely recommend stacking incentives whenever you can. I'm not sure if anybody in this audience is a renter, but just in case you are, I wanted to provide some steps that you can take. Obviously, the options are a bit more limited as a renter, but we are currently working on that within the coalitions that we're a part of. People are discussing ways that we can make it easier for renters to electrify. But for the meantime, some things that you can do is buying a new or used electric vehicle. And again, definitely recommend taking advantage of those incentives I just showed you. There's also an annual EV rebate program in Illinois that's very popular. It opens in about January of each year. So definitely reach out to Cub if you have any questions about that one. But when the new round of applications becomes available, I definitely encourage you to apply as soon as possible as it is very popular. But you do have to purchase the EV within 90 days of the application cycle. So that's just something to keep in mind. Also, you can utilize a portable induction cooktop. So if you're a renter, you can buy a single plate version of the induction stovetop, and then you can just place that directly over one of your gas hobs. So it's a great way to try out the technology, and you can take it with you when you move. And lastly, you can participate in a community solar program in your utility territory. So, how community solar works is you subscribe to solar panels at a solar farm within your utility territory. So, anywhere within ComEd territory in our situation here. And your subscription size is based on your electricity usage. So, how it works is the solar provider that you signed up with will bill you for the electricity you produced using their solar panels because you don't own those solar panels, but the solar provider will bill you at a discounted rate, usually around 10 to 20%. So that's where you will see those guaranteed savings on the supply portion of your energy bill. So you can also talk with your landlord about choosing electric over gas when it's time for an appliance upgrade if you feel comfortable doing so. Rewiring America also has some great resources on how to electrify your home as a renter. So, lastly, there is a proceeding happening currently called the Future of Gas in Illinois. So, what is the future of gas? The Illinois Commerce Commission, who once again approves any rate hike requests from investor-owned utilities, issued a 2023 gas rate case final order to fully explore the issues involved with decarbonization of the gas distribution system. So, phase one had 7 meetings to determine the scope. Phase two started last August. It's going on right now and will run until February 2026. Many pathways will be considered to determine how to decarbonize, and in the end, ICC will issue a report with recommendations on how to do so. So, why am I telling you about this? This report will most definitely influence future legislation, so it's important to be aware of. It's also open to the public. So, if you wanted to start attending some of the workshops, you could register on the website. Or if you were just curious to see some of the meeting materials to see what's being talked about, you can do that as well. I linked the Future of Gas ICC website if you were curious. And Cub also has Future of Gas summaries that we've been providing on our website to keep you in the loop of what's going on as a consumer. So here is a QR code that you can scan to give some feedback on your thoughts about clean buildings, how to implement these things in your home, and policies that would help make this easier for consumers to do so. So I'll give you a moment here if anybody would like to scan this QR code. Okay, and that's all for me. I have listed our consumer advocacy hotline once again and linked our website. Thank you for your time and for watching this recording today. Have a great rest of your day.